Good evening. If you're watching this from home, started the tape or the video about 3 minutes early, so there will be a breakdown until we get some people joined in. You might want to skip forward until you see extra folks join us. Thanks for being with us, even if you're not with us right at this moment. Good evening. How you doing? Can you hear me okay? That's too loud. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. You're my first patient tonight, or customer tonight, so we'll wait just a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
How's everything? You're on target with your calendar, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm almost done with tasks. I'm working on task 6 now.
Okay. So, and your cap has gone through, it's gone through the whole process, right? Task stream, the whole thing.
Yeah, cap, yes.
Great. Great. That must be a nice feeling.
Almost. Not quite. Once I get done.
Can't feel it too soon. That's true. I think if you're right on time, then next week you'll upload that task 4 in the task assignment Dropbox. But you're at 6, aren't you?
Yes,
Okay. That looks to me like a difficult task to cover all 21 competencies like that and make associations here and there. Looks like work. Well, you may be my only customer tonight. It is 6. We usually have a few people in here by 6. So last week before fall break.
yeah.
Oh, I'm here.
Someone else is here? Someone was here. Okay, well, let's go. Let me go on and run you through it because I really think this andragogy. I'm sure it's
Yes, all the way.
not the most exciting thing you've heard, but I think it's of vital importance. I really want to push it. So sorry about that. Discussion board 13 and 14. Are your discussion boards all caught up too?
Yes,
Okay, great.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, I'm traveling, so I'm trying to work my phone. I'm sorry, but I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you can't see, it'll be hard. Anyway.
I can see you. I just can't. Y'all can't see me for some reason.
Oh, that's squeaky. I never trusted Zoom stuff. Okay, anyway, it's time to have sign up task 3 in the bank. Next week's fall break, so we will not meet. I get a week's break from me, and then we'll pick back up October 30th. I'm probably going to change this calendar somewhat because I want to get into communication skills probably more than the original calendar called for, but we will do so. Okay?
Okay.
Let's get that one off. Get this one on. But we're not going to hear the whole thing again, that's for sure. I think we're like on 21. Yeah. Wanted to start with reviewing the last time. Andragogy is about, of course, about adult learners. It's important that it takes the adults seriously. I wish I had known all this when I was a principal. I've never been a big fan of in-service at schools because it's always seemed contrived and required, and why did half of us need to be there? But this, I think, if used the right way, could really pep up your professional development program a million times. But you can do it in whole or in part. It's flexible, and it's built to change according to the individual or the situation. For example, one school full of well-off kids who come to school, do what they're told, etc. Their teachers need a different kind of professional development than teachers who teach in schools where kids are economically challenged and challenged in so many other ways. And look at school as more of a battle. And the different skills and different levels in different places. Okay, practicing adult learning. The rest of this is a series of articles and studies that were done as part of this book, The Adult Learner. I'm going to push it in, and it's got a couple of learning models and ways to think about things. If you have comments or concerns or questions, just butt right in. Otherwise, I'm going to probably fly through it fairly quickly. We got
Okay.
one of the things they really push for in adult learning is what they call the whole part whole learning model, and you change your role from being the teacher to the facilitator of learning, as they say. Is another one. Releasing the energy of others is another one. Learning contracts, training delivery problems and solutions, developing effective workers in new roles. I think I skipped the last one, so you're saved. The whole part whole learning model. A whole is a holistic picture of past experiences is where you start out, what you've seen before. Then you learn parts. We talked about the elemental model, parts of the thing, bit by bit by bit, fill it in, and then take a new holistic picture of where you are. Here's one in practice. What grade level are you?
At middle school.
Okay, so this may sound goofy, but this is an elementary reading model that's taken favor of the past few years. So, but it's how do we hit every part of reading instruction? So you start out with the whole, thinking about your reading program in your elementary classroom, especially if you're in the lower grades. Then you take up each of 5 parts of what's called blended reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, and learn how to do each one, or how to teach each one of those again. Then you go back to the whole, the big 5 delivery, because you got to be able to do flexible grouping, you got to be able to deal with student movement, and you got to deal with student assessment, because all those things are happening at the same time in the classroom. And it's very much of a scheduling issue as much as anything else. Then you go back out to the whole and look at the whole of the big 5. You could do the same with the middle school philosophy, I think. Starting with the whole, if we're looking at adolescence, and then break down individual parts that you want to take care of with that, and then move on from there. If you want to move from teacher to facilitator of learning, this was a study by one teacher who changed her ways. She always thought of teacher as being the one who's accountable for student learning. How they learn, when they learn, if they learn, and could be defined as the content planner and transmitter, which is the way I'm doing this now, I guess. I don't know why I'm getting one picture at the top. One at a time, I guess. And I disappeared. Aha. Aha. We discover new people.
All right.
This thing drives me crazy. Anyway, when you become a facilitator of learning, then you get into inquiry teams, empowered learners, process design management. And it becomes important that you look at relationships, needs, team planning, links to resources, encouragement. Now, I'm going to say up front, this is my style, my way of trying to do things. But you also have to be aware that there are some folks who are less than positive about the new directions that the school might take. And just because you give them empowered possibilities, they may or may not take them. I hate to say that, but it's true. Another section was on releasing the energy of others. And this was really about leadership. The old concept was that I would control you. How I would be contrived as, or seen as effective, would be to get you to follow orders. And it leaves everything up to my vision, my ability to get you to do what I want you to do, which I guess is okay, but it's limited, because the highest function of leadership is to release the energy of others. We're all working towards mutual goals, and it makes sense that we're doing this together. More on that. Creative leaders versus controlling leaders. I think I've heard this group be pretty adamant that you want to be creative leaders. I hope so. But they're based on different assumptions about human nature. Basically, creative leaders have positive views of human nature. People want to do well. People want to do a good job with what they're doing. And controlling people have more negative perceptions. People don't try. People don't know what they're doing. People get out of anything they can. People are lazy, etc. Creative leaders have faith in people. You give people chances to do things. They delegate decision making. They make you part of things. They also believe that if you're empowered, you become more creative and productive. I mostly found that to be true. It is not always, and you have to be aware of that. If I can jump back to Todd Whitaker, right around here is when you start figuring out who needs to get off the bus. When they don't pick up on their ability to make decisions themselves, and they're still acting like they have to do everything you say. Creative leaders basically value individuality and see possibilities in that controlling leaders only see as threats. Any questions so far? Okay. Creative leaders stimulate and reward creativity. It doesn't have to be done my way. In fact, I might not have a way at all. So that's one reason I'm asking you to do it. Committed to continuous change. That whole run from good to great, and realizing when you're great, as soon as you stop to celebrate, you're sliding off again. They're skilled in managing that change. They realize that adults are internally motivated, not externally motivated. It's not about some prize that you give at staff meeting every week for everyone who's on duty. It's about taking pride in what you do. And they encourage people to be self-directing. They're not always there for the answer. Another way of looking at adult learning was to do learning contracts. When I was a kid in school, learning contracts were all the rage, and I loved them because they gave me clear guidelines on what I could do to be excellent or to get by, or whatever point in my life I was at that point. But naturally, if adults want to do something, hopefully you see that in your work towards a certificate, you want to do a job as an administrator. Hopefully you're self-directing when you're doing that versus if someone would just say, you got to be a principal to get on with it. Okay? So developing a learning contract is like anything else. You need needs assessment, learning objectives, resources and strategies, evidence of accomplishment, how you're going to be validated, review with someone else to make, I mean, you can do these on your own. Carry out the contract and evaluate learning. In fact, I suspect every single one of you could do this with the MELS program all the way down to almost finishing carrying out the contract and at the evaluation of learning, which will be for you to reflect. That I was talking earlier about the difficulty of task 6 in the SIAP, trying to make it all wrap up, make it all make sense. I think it's a good thing that you do that. 12 most common fears of training delivery problems, and I have many of these, so I'm just going to use myself as an example. Just fear. The best way to beat fear down before you start these things is to be well prepared, and I have had to learn that over time, I must admit. Use the icebreakers and be willing to acknowledge the fear, because it is nerve-wracking to try to do something well that you haven't done before. Credibility. Will they think I'm credible? Whatever you do, don't apologize. Have the attitude of an expert and share your personal background. Hopefully you've seen that out of me a little bit, and not too much, because I can tell middle school stories all day long. As can anybody who teaches in middle school. But there's a little bit of shared personal background that makes good sense. Other of the most common fears. Should I talk about my personal experiences again? I think they add spice and give you some basis of understanding. I can also report the experience of others. Hopefully you've done that along the way, maybe. If not, I'll look for opportunities as we finish. And to use analogies, movies, or famous people as examples of how the learning could be used. Then there's difficult learners, which my dad used to work with junior achievement. He said teachers were the single rudest audience he had ever run into, ever, year after year after year. It used to drive him crazy. So you will find difficult learners in your staff meeting, on your team. And, one thing you have to do is confront them. Probably not right out in front of everybody. But you do have to go off to the side and say, hey, are you part of this or not? Because you're distracting others, you're off task, you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. When people try to run over you and run your class, turn your back on them, move away, cut them out of the conversation. For people who are afraid to do stuff, use small groups to help for timid behaviors. More problems. Participation. This is the one that drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Some night, like the second or third night, people were just yak. But I have struggled with it ever since. So anyone who wants to jump in and participate, I'd be more than happy to allow you to do so. Anyway, ask open-ended questions, plan small group activities, which we can't really do in this setting. But I think when you do your critiques of each other, I think it's a great example of that. And invite participation. So I hope you will always feel invited to participate with us. Your timing. This is one I always struggle with because I never know how long or how short I'll go. It seems like no matter what I do, I can't hit it just right. So that comes with practice, and planning. And I've gotten better at that, but I've got a ways to go. Be willing to adjust your instruction between one thing and the next. Now we have fall break next week, and I'm going to use that time to gather some other kinds of ways to impart what I'm trying to say to you guys, other than the PowerPoint program that I've used so far. So we'll see how that goes. Be sure to take feedback and redesign your breaks. So that's where I'm going with it. Anticipate questions. Ooh, what was that? Is that a wild dog?
My dog. Sorry,
It's
I
all
just
right.
got home.
All right. It's nice
He
to come.
wants to be a part of the conversation. Sorry.
I miss my dog, so enjoy. It's okay to say I don't know. If we knew everything, you know, there wouldn't be any point in doing these things. And while we're on the subject, when you're a principal, be willing to say I don't know, then be willing to go and find out the answer and come back with it. But there's nothing wrong with I don't know, because none of us know everything. Solicit informal feedback along the way and do summative evaluations, both of which we do in this program. Any questions? Nope. I'm shocked. Other things, media, materials, facilities. How will I take care of this? You know, I don't have a lot to worry about in this course because it's pretty much Zoom. But I have come up, I promise you, I have come a long way with Zoom technology, and I got a long ways to go, but it's a whole lot better than it was even last semester. Opens and closings, that's for your presentation. And this is good advice. You might want to develop an openings file, things you can say at the beginning of speeches, things you can say at the beginning of just little jokes. Collect them, put them in a file, pull them out when the time comes. Memorize sections, relax trainees, and summarize concisely. Final one is dependence on notes. Now, if I didn't have notes, I would be dead in the water. And we would be finished much faster, I promise you, than we already are finishing. So be willing to use note cards, use visuals, and practice. And try to make it as smooth as you can with notes, but don't be afraid to have them. Developing effective workers in new roles. This, I think, is the last section. Every year we get new teachers in schools. And I won't say we, I never gave them enough time and energy at the beginning of the year to make sure they understood what we were up to. And one of the things that one of this final article is what actually educational institutions, high schools, colleges, master's programs, what they can do to develop effective workers in new roles. Because you, for example, will be taking on new roles in your future. So they've identified 4 learning domains times 3 learning tasks, which equal 12 learning tasks total. One domain is the individual. We want to try to pick people, and you want to try to pick places where your attributes are good for the organization. We want you to develop appropriate expectations about the job in the organization. We don't want you to think that you are going to absolutely take over or be crushed. We want you to be part of that organization. And the kind of special skills and strategies you need to become a better worker. And that's what our coursework has primarily been about.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the people domain. How do you get along with folks? What are their first impressions of you? Excuse me. What are their first impressions of you? What is going to be a favorable way to enter a new school? How should you dress? How should you talk? How should you encounter people? How should you try to keep relationships positive between you and others? And how do you manage your relationship with your supervisor as well? Do you butt heads? Or are you both the kind of people who thrive on conflict, and that's a great thing? Okay, that's the people domain. Then comes the organizational domain. Understand the importance of culture. Learn the key elements of untaught culture. I bet every one of your schools is a different place from each other. They're all schools, but I bet they all have subtle or somewhat subtle differences in culture that you will need to learn whenever you move there, either as a supervisor or as a supervised one. Learn the informal organization. Who are the power people? Who are the gripey people? who do people go to for the drop dead decisions, and learn your roles, accept what you can and can't do, and reconcile those issues. The third task domain is the work task domain. I want you to go into your new job knowing what you need to do. You understand the basic task, you develop necessary skills. Now, does that mean you won't be surprised like every day of the first 2 years that you do an assistant principal job? You will be. You will be, and it'll be wild, but we want you to have as much knowledge as possible going into it. So develop the individual domain, teach basic skills in people and organizational domains, build awareness of the entire scope of learning tasks after employment. So once you become a principal and assistant principal, what do? What do you have to keep learning about? Develop your social learning skills, stress self-directed learning. One of the questions on that assistant principal letter was, or assignment is, what are you reading right now? You should always have something you're reading, trying to get a little better at whatever you're doing. Try not to read the things that just make you feel better about what you're doing, but try to read things that will push you a little bit too. Okay? Bibliography. This is the book, the definitive classic in adult education and human resource development. I strongly recommend that you buy it and put it on your shelf and don't leave it there. But pull it down and see what you can do with it. Anybody have any questions about andragogy, if I could say it with him, andragogy, or anything about preparing people to be better workers in your organization? Okay. What I'll do is sum this up, and I will send it out to everybody so you'll have it. You're welcome to use it and learn from it anytime, any way you can. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, next week is fall break. We will not meet. And I will come back the following week. We have, I think, 3 weeks, and then Thanksgiving, and then 3 weeks. So we'll come back with some new information, new lease on life. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's about dried out from all the rain and hurricanes and everything else. About sick of them here. I've got a branch that's about 3 feet around at the base out in my front yard that fell out of a tree. I can't find anybody to come cut it up yet.
Oh, yeah.
But at least it's not on the house. So
Right.
it fell right in between my house and my neighbors, so we're all good. Anyway, have a great 2 weeks, and we'll see you, I think it's October 30th. Okay? Bye-bye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
You too.